The massive ship appeared without warning, materializing above Earth's atmosphere like a midnight sun. Global communications flickered as electromagnetic pulses rippled across the planet. In the Pentagon's Joint Operations Center, Admiral James Cooper watched multiple screens flash red with incoming data. His weathered face, marked by 30 years of naval service, remained impassive even as junior officers scrambled around him. "Sir, the object is approximately 15 kilometers in length," reported Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez, her fingers flying across holographic displays. "It's like nothing we've ever seen." "Any hostile actions?" Cooper asked, though he suspected if the visitors wanted a fight, they wouldn't be having this conversation. "Negative, sir. They're just waiting." The answer came 19 minutes later. Every screen, phone, and digital display on Earth simultaneously activated with the same message: "People of Earth, we are the Orion Collective. Your planet has been selected for evaluation and potential integration into our empire. Prepare to receive our representatives." In the United Nations emergency session that followed, world leaders gathered in an atmosphere of barely contained panic. The Russian president argued for immediate military response. The Chinese premier advocated for cautious diplomacy. The American president remained unusually silent, studying reports from the world's top scientists about the visitors' technological capabilities. Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading xenobiologist, took the podium. Based on initial scans, the Orion Collective appears to be a Type II civilization on the Kardashev scale. Their energy manipulation capabilities alone suggest technology centuries beyond ours. The room erupted in murmurs. Cooper, now representing Earth's unified military command, raised his hand. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, do we have any chance in a direct confrontation?" Patel's response was interrupted by the appearance of three figures materializing directly in the assembly hall. Standing 3 meters tall, their bodies seemed to be composed of crystalline structures that shifted colors like oil on water. The central figure stepped forward, its voice resonating not through air but directly in their minds. "We have observed your species for some time," it stated. "Your potential is noteworthy, but undisciplined. You spend resources on internal conflicts that could be better utilized under proper guidance." The alien's tone carried what humans would recognize as condescension, though its crystalline features showed no expression. "We offer you a choice: submit to evaluation for membership in our collective, or face immediate quarantine. Your species will be confined to this solar system until deemed worthy of further contact." Cooper stepped forward, ignoring security protocols. "And if we refuse both options?" The alien's surface rippled with patterns of deep red. "That would be unwise. We have incorporated thousands of species into our collective. Those who refused no longer exist to warn others of their mistake." As the UN delegates descended into chaos, Cooper noticed something peculiar. Despite their apparent superiority, the aliens positioned themselves with tactical precision, covering exits, maintaining clear lines of sight. They were warriors, and warriors could be understood, predicted, and defeated. "We request time to consider your offer," Cooper stated, his voice cutting through the pandemonium. The lead alien's surface shifted to a contemplative blue. "You have 48 of your hours to prepare your response. Choose wisely." After the aliens departed, Cooper gathered Earth's military leadership in a secure bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. As holographic displays showed the alien vessel's position, he allowed himself a small smile. "They think they're dealing with primitives," he said, "but they've just made 3 critical mistakes. First, they've given us time to prepare. Second, they've shown us they think like warriors, which means they have warriors' limitations. And third, he activated a display showing detailed scans of their visitors. They've let us see them up close." The assembled leaders leaned forward as Cooper outlined his plan. The aliens expected submission or futile resistance. They would receive neither. Instead, humanity would show them something they'd never encountered in their countless conquests: adaptation. When the Orion Collective's representatives returned for humanity's answer, they found not a cowering species, but a unified front. Admiral Cooper stood before the UN Assembly, flanked by Major Kira Yamamoto and Captain Marcus Baptiste, Earth's foremost experts in unconventional warfare. "We accept your evaluation," Cooper announced, his voice steady. "But we propose a modification to your terms." The crystalline beings shifted colors rapidly, their surfaces displaying patterns that Earth's xenolinguists would later identify as amusement. The lead alien, who had introduced itself as Nexus Prime, responded with what felt like patronizing patience. "You are in no position to negotiate terms," it projected into their minds. "Yet we find ourselves curious about your proposal." Major Yamamoto stepped forward, her cybernetic eye scanning the alien's crystalline forms. "You pride yourselves on incorporating the strengths of thousands of species. We propose a series of trials that will demonstrate humanity's unique capabilities." The alien's surfaces rippled with interest. Captain Baptiste continued, "Not just tests of military might, but challenges that showcase our species' true potential. After all, if you're seeking to add our strengths to your collective, shouldn't you understand exactly what those strengths are?" Nexus Prime's form pulsed with deep purple hues. "Your species has barely achieved spaceflight. What could you possibly demonstrate that we haven't seen in our millennia of expansion?" Cooper smiled, a gesture that didn't reach his eyes. "That's exactly what we intend to show you. Unless, of course, you fear what you might learn." The psychological warfare was subtle but effective. The alien surfaces flickered with patterns that their cultural experts interpreted as indignation. They had conquered thousands of worlds, but they had never encountered a species that dared to challenge their assumptions so directly. "We accept," Nexus Prime declared. 5 trials, each testing different aspects of your species' capabilities. Should you fail any 3, you submit to immediate integration under our terms. Should you succeed in 3 or more, we will negotiate terms that respect your species' autonomy. As the aliens outlined the trial formats, Cooper exchanged knowing glances with his team. The Orion Collective had fallen into humanity's first trap. They assumed the trials themselves would be the challenge. They didn't realize that humans had been rewriting the rules of engagement since they first picked up sticks and stones. Major Yamamoto's cybernetic eye recorded everything as the aliens described the trials: combat scenarios, technological challenges, tests of strategic thinking. Each seemed designed to showcase the collective's superiority. But with every word, humanity's chances improved. "There's one more condition," Cooper added as the aliens concluded. "Each trial must be broadcast across your entire collective. If you're testing us for integration, your people should witness what humanity has to offer." Nexus Prime's surface displayed patterns of confident agreement. "Granted. Your species' humiliation will serve as a lesson to others who might consider defiance." After the aliens departed, Baptiste activated a quantum-encrypted channel to Earth's hidden command center. "They bought it," he reported. "Every single assumption we wanted them to make." In the command center, Dr. Patel smiled as she reviewed the trial parameters. "They've designed each test based on their own capabilities and experiences. Classic confirmation bias. They're looking for what they expect to find, not what we might actually show them." Cooper's voice came through the channel, tight with controlled excitement. "Begin Phase 2. We have 72 hours to show the Orion Collective why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, our numbers, or even our determination." "What is our greatest strength, sir?" a young lieutenant asked. "Our ability to make others underestimate us," Cooper replied. "And then make them regret it." Around the world, specialized teams began their preparations. The aliens expected warriors, so they would get warriors, but not the kind they could possibly prepare for. In secret facilities, humanity's champions trained not just in combat, but in the art of the unexpected. Because when the trials began, the Orion Collective would learn that humans had turned improvisation into a weapon more powerful than any technology. The first trial began in a massive arena constructed by the Orion Collective in Earth's orbit. Hovering platforms created a three-dimensional battlefield that stretched for kilometers. Trillions of beings across the collective watched through quantum-linked feeds as humanity faced its first test. Major Yamamoto stood on the central platform, wearing what appeared to be standard military gear. The aliens had expected powered armor or advanced weaponry. Instead, she carried only basic equipment and what looked like a backpack full of random items. Her opponent, a towering crystalline warrior designated Champion Prime, loomed over her. The trial of combat adaptation begins, Nexus Prime announced. Survive for 30 minutes against our champion, using only the resources you bring with you. Champion Prime's crystalline form shifted into razor-sharp configurations, each edge gleaming with deadly purpose. Your primitive equipment insults us, it projected. You face a warrior who has defeated champions from 1,000 worlds. Yamamoto smiled, unzipping her backpack. You've never faced a human before. The battle began with explosive force as Champion Prime launched a barrage of crystalline projectiles. But where the alien expected to find its opponent, there was only empty space. Yamamoto had already moved, using the low gravity to her advantage. She pulled out what appeared to be a children's toy, a bubble gun filled with a special compound developed by Earth scientists. What is this mockery? Champion Prime demanded, only to watch in shock as the bubbles it dismissed as harmless made contact with its crystalline surface. The compound began disrupting its molecular structure, forcing it to constantly shift forms to prevent degradation. First rule of human combat, Yamamoto called out as she swung between platforms using simple rope and physics, we use everything. She produced a handful of small mirrors next, precisely angled to reflect the arena's harsh lighting directly into her opponent's photosensitive surfaces. The watching collective rippled with confusion. This wasn't combat as they understood it. The human wasn't trying to overpower her opponent, she was systematically analyzing and exploiting every weakness she could find, no matter how insignificant it seemed. Champion Prime grew increasingly frustrated as its attacks met only empty air or clever countermeasures. When it finally managed to corner Yamamoto, she pulled out her masterstroke, a simple bag of fine powder that, when dispersed in a zero-gravity environment, created a cloud that interfered with the crystalline being's molecular communication patterns. Second rule, Yamamoto announced while her opponent struggled to maintain its form, there's no such thing as a fair fight. Only victory or defeat. As the 30-minute mark approached, Champion Prime had yet to land a single effective blow. Worse, its pristine form was covered in an embarrassing combination of bubbles, powder, and what appeared to be quick-drying cement. The human had turned the entire arena into a battlefield where every surface, every shadow, and every piece of debris became a potential weapon. Time, Nexus Prime announced, its tone carrying an edge of disbelief. The human survives. In the observation deck, Cooper watched with satisfaction as the collective's representatives huddled in confused discussion. They had expected a primitive display of force. Instead, they had witnessed something their rigid military doctrine couldn't comprehend, complete adaptability. Send the data to all teams, he ordered. They'll be changing their approach for the next trial. We need to be ready. Around Earth, humanity's other champions analyzed the battle, noting how the aliens reacted, how their tactical doctrine limited their responses. The collective thought they were testing humanity, but humanity was learning far more about them. As Yamamoto returned to the preparation area, Baptiste met her with a grin. Think they got the message? She checked her nearly empty backpack, filled with items that looked like they came from a party supply store but had been carefully chosen based on xenobiological analysis. They're starting to. But the real lesson comes next. In their command ship, the collective's leaders faced an uncomfortable realization. They had designed the trials based on their understanding of warfare, technology, and strategy. But humans, it seemed, didn't play by anyone's rules but their own. The Orion Collective's massive ship hummed with energy as they prepared for the fourth trial. After Yamamoto's unconventional victory, followed by Baptiste's triumph in technological improvisation, and humanity's unexpected success in strategic planning, the aliens had modified their approach. Now they believed they understood humanity's tricks. They were wrong. The fourth trial took place in a massive virtual environment, where the laws of physics could be manipulated at will. The collective had designed it as the ultimate test of adaptation, a space where reality itself could shift without warning. Their champion was Void Weaver, a being that had mastered 15 dimensions of spatial manipulation. Captain Lisa Henderson, Earth's foremost expert in quantum computing and virtual warfare, stood ready in the digital arena. Her avatar appeared as a simple human figure, unadorned by the flashy modifications the aliens expected. The trial of reality manipulation begins, Nexus Prime announced. Survive in an environment of constant change for 1 hour. Void Weaver immediately twisted the virtual space into impossible geometries, expecting to disorient its human opponent. Instead, Henderson laughed, a sound that echoed strangely through the warped dimensions. "You know what humans did when we first created virtual worlds?" she asked, even as reality bent around her. "We broke them. Deliberately. For fun." What followed was unlike anything the collective had ever witnessed. While Void Weaver manipulated the environment according to the complex rules of dimensional physics, Henderson approached it like a video game speedrunner. She found glitches in the virtual architecture, exploited coding oversights, and turned the system's own rules against it. Impossible, Void Weaver projected as Henderson phase-shifted through what should have been impenetrable barriers. "You cannot understand these dimensional principles." "We don't need to understand them," Henderson replied, discovering a way to duplicate her avatar by triggering a memory buffer overflow. "We just need to break them." The watching collective witnessed something unprecedented. Their carefully constructed virtual environment, designed to showcase their mastery over reality itself, was being systematically dismantled by what they had dismissed as primitive human hacking techniques. In the control room, Cooper watched alongside Dr. Patel as Henderson's actions caused cascading errors throughout the system. "They made the mistake of thinking we'd play in their reality," he observed. "They forgot that humans have been finding ways to break game systems since Pong." Henderson's multiple avatars now moved in patterns that exploited gaps in the virtual physics engine. Where Void Weaver tried to create order, she introduced chaos, controlled, purposeful chaos that served her objectives while confounding her opponent's attempts to establish control. "Your actions violate the fundamental laws of this space," Void Weaver protested as its carefully crafted dimensional manipulations began to unravel. "Welcome to humanity," Henderson replied, triggering a sequence that caused the virtual environment to recursively loop on itself. "We've been violating fundamental laws since we figured out how to make fire." As the trial approached its final minutes, the collective's representatives watched in horror as their champion became trapped in its own dimensional manipulations, tangled in the very rules it had tried to enforce. Henderson's understanding of system vulnerabilities had turned their greatest strength into a weakness. When the trial ended, the virtual environment had to be completely reset. Henderson's techniques hadn't just survived the challenge, they had fundamentally altered what the collective thought possible in their own systems. "The human succeeds," Nexus Prime announced, its mental voice carrying undertones of disturbance. Though the methods employed were unprecedented. In Earth's command center, the mood was quietly triumphant. 3 trials won, with 1 remaining. But more importantly, they had shaken the collective's confidence in their own superiority. The aliens had created tests based on their understanding of warfare, technology, and reality itself, only to watch humans systematically demonstrate that understanding itself could be a limitation. "Prepare for the final trial," Cooper ordered. "They'll be desperate now. Expecting us to be overconfident." "Aren't we?" a junior officer asked. "No," Cooper smiled. "We're just getting started. After all, humanity's greatest victories have always come when our backs are against the wall." The final trial wasn't what anyone expected. The Orion Collective, shaken by their previous defeats, designed something different. Not a test of combat, technology, or virtual mastery, but what they considered humanity's greatest weakness: cooperation. Your species fights itself constantly, Nexus Prime declared. For this trial, you must demonstrate unified purpose across your entire population. You have 1 hour to show us why humanity deserves to remain independent. Cooper stood before the United Nations Assembly, now broadcast across both Earth and the entire collective. Instead of panic, he smiled. "Thank you," he said, "for finally giving us the chance to show you what humanity truly is." What followed was unlike anything the collective had witnessed in their millennia of conquest. Every screen on Earth lit up with a single message: show them who we are. Cities across the globe erupted in coordinated action. In Tokyo, thousands of people formed a living artwork visible from space. In Rio de Janeiro, millions joined in a spontaneous dance that rippled through the streets. In Cairo, children released biodegradable lanterns that formed DNA helixes in the sky. But it wasn't just spectacle. Quantum computers across the planet linked together, with millions of humans volunteering their brainpower through neural interfaces. They weren't attacking the collective systems, they were showing them something new. Combining human creativity with machine precision, they generated art that existed in dimensions the collective had never imagined. "You see division," Cooper explained as the displays showed humanity's response. "We see strength. Every language, every culture, every conflict has taught us something new. We fight because we care enough to disagree, to challenge, to improve." Scientists shared their research openly, breakthroughs happening in real time as global cooperation eliminated traditional barriers. Artists collaborated across continents, creating works that merged thousands of cultural traditions into something entirely new. "Humanity isn't perfect unity," Dr. Patel added, addressing the collective. "We're perfect chaos. Every argument, every competition, every conflict has made us stronger, more adaptable, more creative." The collective watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated not just cooperation, but celebration of their differences. They had expected submission to prove unity. Instead, they got billions of individuals choosing to work together while remaining uniquely themselves. As the hour drew to a close, Cooper delivered the final message. "You offered to make us part of your collective. But we already understand something you don't: true strength isn't in enforcing uniformity. It's in embracing diversity. Every species you've conquered had something unique to offer, but you standardized them, stripped away what made them special." Nexus Prime's crystalline form shifted through complex patterns of confusion and revelation. "You believe we have weakened ourselves through conquest? Look at your own data," Henderson suggested. "Every trial,